Hello everyone, welcome to the Wargaming Parrot. I'm David and today's video is all about punishment and specifically why punishment doesn't work with parrots. In this video I'm going to talk about the various aspects where punishment doesn't work with parrots, explain why, and offer some alternative solutions if you have some of these particular behavioural problems. I'm currently joined by Miss Olive, who's having a little snack from the bowl, and I'll hopefully have all of the parrots out while I'm filming this. It's going to take a little while, so you get to see them all having a bit of fun out and about. So the first point I wanted to make is that parrots' brains are wired differently to ours. While we're not the biggest fans of punishment in general, when a parrot is punished, they make different associations and links to, say, for example, human childhood. And it's worth bearing this in mind. So things that we would apply in our own psychology and ways we would do things for our children would not work for a parrot. So before you think about punishing a parrot, keep that in mind. And generally there are better ways of going about things in general other than punishment. However, that's a completely different topic and a big minefield, so I'm going to stay well clear of it. I wanted to talk about dominance. Now, there are many different forms of dominance that people claim that parrots propagate. However, most of it is rubbish, and it's also rubbish that you need to be dominant over your parrot. Parrots are a flock species, which means they work cooperatively in the wild to achieve their goals. That may be evading a predator, that may be finding food. They work together. Yes, they have squabbles. Yes, there may be some slight stronger hierarchical structures, but dominance is not a thing. Same with height dominance. There's a great video, I think it was Flock Talk, about height dominance. I'll see if I can find a link so you can watch that. But to paraphrase, when they want to go high, it's because they feel safer and more secure up there. You need to look at other factors. So dominance is really not a big factor with parrots, and you being dominant over them does not help you at all. You need to be cooperative with them. Have a cooperative relationship, just like they would in a flock. You are part of their flock, so cooperate with them and work on things that way. A very common form of punishment used with parrots is tapping or hitting. For example, people would tap their head, or in extreme cases hit them or sweep them away. Now, tapping and hitting does not work. It is very tempting to do, especially if your parrot bites you, but it is something you should avoid at all costs, because if you tap or hit your parrot, all they're learning is that this hand is bad and this hand is something to be scared of. It can lead to all sorts of aggression issues. Your parrot will just go for your hand immediately and bite it. It can also lead to learned helplessness. And I don't really like the idea of learned helplessness. Your parrot isn't cooperating with you because they want to. They're cooperating with you because they feel they have to, and they feel that if they don't, they're going to get hurt. And that's not the kind of relationship you want with your pet. So tapping and hitting really is something you want to avoid at all costs. My next common form of punishment is shouting or telling off. Now, I'm getting very tempted to tell off a fish because he will not stop screaming. Again, it's quite bright outside. You can see lots of lovely birdies. However, doing that will not be good. Shouting and telling off, again, can create a fear response, but more often it gives the birds the attention they're craving. So, for example, your bird is yelling and yelling and yelling, or they've just bitten you. If you shout or tell them off, that's just a reaction to them. They don't see it, associate it as bad bird, you shouldn't do that. They associate it as, wow, a reaction, cool, it's loud, especially these conures. If you shout at them, you're just asking for more and more biting. So it's important, as I've said through other videos, to be calm and keep your voice neutral and never use shouting or telling off to punish your bird, because it just doesn't work and often creates a lot more of an issue. This next form of punishment is probably the most common, and that is popping your parrot back in the cage for a timeout. Lots of people recommend it still, and it's one of those things that doesn't work. It's one of those things that's easier for us. We pop them back in the cage, we don't have to deal with the behavioural problem anymore, sorted. However, it can create some very silly links in your parrot's brain. For example, if your parrot bites you and you then say no and pop it back in the cage, all the parrot's learning is, whenever it bites you, it gets to go back in the cage. So if it fancies going back in the cage, it's just going to bite you. It doesn't really solve screaming issues because you need to get to the root of the problem. Again, I'll go into the solutions later in the video. But putting your parrot back in the cage for a timeout just doesn't work as a solution for problems. It's just a bad form of punishment, just like all of them. However, if you need a break, you're having difficulty with your parrot's behaviour, they're screaming, they're getting agitated. Here, have this. Do you want a treat? Good girl. There you go, some positive reinforcement there for noise you want to hear. So anyway, as I was saying, If your parrot's misbehaving and you're having difficulty, you're getting stressed, it may be good to pop them back in a cage. After the behaviour subsided, for example, if they've bitten you, pop them onto a neutral location, then take them back to the cage and pop them home for a little bit, just so you can calm down, you can de-stress. In that situation, it's fine, but not as a punishment for your parrot. This form of punishment is kind of an old school form of punishment, but some people still do it, and that is spraying your bird with water whenever they misbehave. Some people apply it for cats and dogs, so that's probably why it got transferred to the bird world. Again, it's not really something that works very well. If you spray your parrot with water every time, say it bites you or starts screaming or whatever other behaviour you don't like seeing, all it's going to do is create a link in the parrot's brain that spraying water is scary and I don't like being sprayed with water, and it's maybe going to negatively affect your parrot's ability to bathe. For example, we had a consult quite a while ago actually, where in the past a bird had been sprayed with a water bottle every time it screamed. So it was now terrified of water bottles. It was even terrified of water in general, to the extent where having drinks was sometimes a pain. Please bear in mind that spraying with a water bottle as a form of punishment can have negative impacts on your bird's psychology, and you want to avoid it because obviously you want a water bottle to be a positive association and then to enjoy having a nice bath. This final form of punishment, before we move on to other alternative solutions, is covering your bird's cage as a form of punishment. For example, this is most commonly done, or traditionally commonly done, when a bird is screaming excessively or being noisy, just like the boys were. So instead, when the boys are being noisy, Olive had their outing, just stop filming for a little bit, then let them out. I don't hear any screaming now, I didn't need to cover them, didn't need to punish them, they just wanted to come out because they're naughty little boys. Regardless, if you cover your bird's cage as a punishment for screaming, yes, it may quieten them down for a little while, or it may make it worse. It can also exacerbate hormonal behaviour. They may scream more because they can't see you, the rest of the flock. There can be all sorts of psychological issues because you're interrupting their natural routine of light and dark cycles, and it's generally something that doesn't work. It's one of those things that has a very temporary solution, but in the long term, it's just not good and can lead to all sorts of issues that you just want to avoid. So I've covered all of the reasons you shouldn't punish, and I've tried to cover the most common forms of punishment. So I thought I'd go into some of the solutions. And my first solution to behavioural problems, as a generality, is positive reinforcement training. Now, positive reinforcement training is basically rewarding to increase the chances of seeing a behaviour you want to see again. For example, if I want Chip to put a little bottle in a vending machine, I will reward him every time he does that. I will not reward him if he puts it on the floor, etc. This is a very simple concept, and I will leave a link to a video that explains it more, and it also talks about target training. I also have some awesome books in my Amazon store by people like Barbara Heidenreich and Karen Pryor. Karen Pryor especially, I'd recommend. Her book is awesome on a sort of intro to the concepts of positive reinforcement, and she talks about punishment as well. And it's just, they're very good. So even if you don't decide to buy them, have a look on the Amazon store, maybe like get to the library or do some research into reading for them, because there's a lot of information that these two ladies have to offer. Next easy solution is training in general. Now, I'd especially recommend target training. Target training is awesome. The link I left a card for earlier in the video will have lots of information on that. But target training, all sorts of training can improve behaviour immeasurably. A good example of this is one we have here, is Scampy. Scampy is a rescue, and he has been taught in the past to food guard. So whenever we try and swap the bowls out, he will come up to the bowls and be aggressive. Now, Sophie started this and we've been sort of continuing it on. What happens is, when he goes there, we wait, and then we say, go on your perch, and then we give him a treat. When he goes to this perch, he gets a treat, and instead of biting us, he's eating that treat, and also he's being reinforced and learning that attacking us when we've changed the bowls doesn't lead to a nice treat. However, being calm and sitting on that perch does, and it's a very easy application for the stuff I've been talking about in this video. Now, you may be asking, what if the behaviour is terrible and I don't know what to do and I can't punish them, so what on earth do I do? I can't train them, they're misbehaving, etc. And this is something we do during training sessions, or if we get bitten for whatever situation, and that's put the bird in a neutral area. Now, that doesn't mean putting them back in a cage, it means putting them somewhere neutral. For example, we use the back of the chair sometimes. Olive nipped me the other day, so during a training session, so instead of putting it back or try it, she bites very hard, so sometimes it's like, But we popped the back on the back of the chair, waited, and then resumed the training, and that works so much better than punishment, because she's just like, oh, what's happened? Okay, I've bitten, so I haven't gone home, I haven't done anything, so I need to think about what I've done. she learns from it, and then she behaves better later on. So the rest of the training session during that was a much better training session and didn't get nipped before. And I'll talk about some of the other factors that may play into this as well later in the video. Now, this leads on from my previous point, and that's do not react. So I talked about shouting, I talked about hitting, which is something you just never want to do. Do not react if your bird bites you. This is incredibly difficult sometimes, especially when they're a bigger bird or they bite hard. But if you can not give that reaction and then calmly take them to that neutral location, you're going to set yourself up for a much better training and behaviour solution pathway. So it's important to remember, do not react, because sometimes they're looking for a reaction. Take them to neutral location, give it a couple of minutes, maybe so you can de-stress as well, then resume whatever you're doing. I'll film a quick example of what I mean. Let me put this treat down. So I'm going to assume that Pickles is just, I'll put my hand here, Pickles just bit me. Ow. That was a way not to react. So I've made a reaction already. So Pickles just bit me. I'm going to try it and get her on my hand, which obviously with Pickles is very easy because she loves me. I move her to a neutral location. I step away. At this point I'll be looking away and not looking at her. And I'll give her a couple of moments to think about what she did. Not in a punishment way though, and not back in a cage. Then I'd resume the behaviours. And again, it wouldn't go as smoothly with your parrot if they're having behavioural issues. Hello Pickles. However, with Pickles, obviously, she is a very good girl. But this is just an example of what you can do about moving to a neutral location. We've got Scampy and Pickles out now, and they're just relaxing on my hand and on the stand. Scampy seems to have seen something out the window again, because we've got loads of birds flying around at the moment, so please do bear in mind they make you noisy. Go on, you sit there. You don't want to sit there? Okay. She just wants to stay on my hand, so that's where we're going to stay. The next common solution to most behavioural problems that is better than punishment is looking at your behaviour. Say, for example, you have a behavioural problem. Look at how you're acting. Are you reacting? Are you getting stressed? Are you doing things that are leading to more instances of that behaviour? Have you changed your nail polish? Have you put in a new earring? Do you have a nose ring? Are you waving your hands around and shouting and getting excited? Just like the boys are now. These birds outside, I tell you. So look at how you're behaving and see if there's any solutions there, because that may be the cause of what's going on, and it's always the first place we normally ask people to look. It's also very important to look at other outside factors. What is your parrot's diet like? Are they on all seed? Have they got lots of sugar? Is it mushy? Is that creating behavioural problems because they've got so much energy and they're not getting enough training? Are they in hormone season? For example, Olive bit me, like I said earlier in the video, purely because she was very hormonal and I wasn't reading her signs correctly. Look at all of those active factors and see if there's anything else you can address. I've got a video on managing hormones, which I'll leave a card for now, because it's one of the most common causes of parrot behavioural issues. As I mentioned earlier in the video as well, have a look on my Amazon store for those books. These ladies have been in the animal behaviour business for decades, and are basically where me and Sophie learned a lot of what we did, and through our studies and through seminars, and it's just, there's so much you can learn through these people. So learn as much as you can, do your research, look into aspects of parrot psychology so you can become better trainers and owners. The other thing that's important as well is if you have a real big issue, reach out to someone. We have a parrot consultation business called Best Behaved Birds. I've got a video on my channel which I'll leave in the description. If you have real issues, you can reach out to us, book a consultation. If not, leave a comment down below and we'll try and help you as best we can, but we do get an awful lot, so please forgive us if we don't get to all of them. Anyway guys, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions, as I mentioned before, please feel free to leave them down below. In the meantime, from me, Pickles and Scampy, take care and have a great day.